Hello and welcome everybody to another StarCraft 2 cast by Glitch. Today I'm bringing to you a best of 5. This is going to be a PvT on GSL Crevasse, spawning here in the bottom left corner as the yellow Protoss, our favorite Ukrainian Protoss, WhiteRa. Spawning here in the bottom right position as the red Terran, we have meaty yellow legs. This is actually sixjaxDDE. I don't know what's up with that screen name. I've never seen that tag before, but this is in fact sixjaxDDE. I have been assured, and I hope my sources are valid. Hopefully it'll be a good series either way. This is, as I said, going to be a best of 5, so we are going to be seeing quite a few matches here as I am going to be casting the whole series. So, GSL Crevasse, interesting map. One that I always, I feel like it changes a lot. It changes a lot from time to time. There was a time when this small expansion here that is almost within the main expansion of your main base used to have, I think it used to have more mineral patches, and this also used to be a regular Vespene geyser. It has now been changed into a rich Vespene geyser. So you only get one, but it is a rich Vespene geyser. Also in the expansion, in this middle expansion, I believe this also used to be a rich Vespene geyser, and it has recently been changed to a regular old Vespene geyser. Let's jump right into this game right now. Both players have decided to take a fast expansion. Very, very common move to make on this map, just because, as I said, your natural expansion is basically inside your main base. Basically, if you're defending your main ramp, well, you're defending your natural too. So. Of course, as I said, it isn't a full natural. There are only 6 mineral patches and a rich Vespene geyser there, but it gives you a little bit of an economic boost, so most players go for that early expansion. WhiteRa going for the gateway straight into that nexus, and DDE here going for that one barracks straight into that command center. No nexuses for Terran. Yeah. Anyway, both players are now scouting each other. Good positioning here by DDE. He is checking to see that WhiteRa isn't going to take a bit of a risky move and go for this larger expansion here. Checking to be sure that he is going to be mining only on that inner expansion so that they can be even on bases right now. And we do now have another gateway coming down for WhiteRa. So WhiteRa currently sitting on 2 gates, and we currently have DDE sitting on 3 barracks, so, and both players choosing not to be too terribly aggressive right now. Love this pylon placement here from WhiteRa, placing it over here because this is a very, very common area for drops. As you can see, people tend to build their buildings around here or towards their front. Nobody ever tends to build back here, so it tends to be a really, really good place to do some drops. So if you're a Terran player, you can a lot of times catch, well, anybody really, unawares here by dropping your units here and moving in and going for a big attack right there. Both players currently building up a lot of drones. WhiteRa constantly chrono boosting those probes exactly as he should be doing on this map, because it is a bit of a big map, and as long as he's controlling those Xel'Naga watchtowers, this is one of those maps where pretty much to get to any other base, you kind of have to come to the middle of the map before you go anywhere. So if you can control at least 1 or 2 of the Xel'Naga towers in the middle, you can pretty much have a good handle on all the unit movement. As we did see from WhiteRa, he was controlling that Xel'Naga watchtower, so he saw this push coming here from DDE, and it looks like that probe is going to get picked off. He's going to be trying to get some more forces up here right now. He's currently only got a few forces here. He just managed to get a sentry out. He's going to be dropping a force field there to try to stall those units for as long as he can, and yes, indeed, managed to even catch a Marine in there. Nice little pick off there by WhiteRa. Now just getting a couple more gateways up. Total of 5 gateways right now. 1 robotics facility is out. He's getting an observer out of there, so he's going to be able to scout his opponent fairly shortly. And in the meantime, DDE continuing to macro up. Looks like he's just going to go for a bit of a light contain there, but a little bit of miscontrol there by DDE as DDE kind of pushes in a little bit, gets all his Marines trapped in a force field there. Nice catch by WhiteRa. Looks like WhiteRa is going to clean up those Marines, and this push is probably going to be forced back here. Yes, and DDE is now pulling back. Well, or maybe not. Looks like he's going to manage to get a free sentry kill in there, and WhiteRa continuing to bring in more units to try to clean up this kill, and holy cow, I am getting some frame rate issues for some reason. Looks like that is cleaning up just a little bit though, so we are going to just continue on with this game, and I will not have to recast it. And what is this we have on the way? This is exactly what I was hoping for from WhiteRa. The Warp Prism on the way. I always love WhiteRa. WhiteRa loves going for these Warp Prisms, and so yeah, I just love to see WhiteRa's Warp Prism play. It's always just so good, so good. WhiteRa now pushing forward with a few of his units. Looks like he is not going to be able to do too much. Looks like he's going to win this little battle. Actually, I didn't think he wins the battle, but he does have a couple more stalkers on the way. Going to be able to deal some damage there and take control of the center of the map. Always critical on this map. We do have an observer at the front of DDE's base, so he sees exactly what his opponent is doing. He knows that his opponent is throwing up these bunkers, which generally means they're being a little bit defensive and not creating a lot of army units, and usually throwing down an expansion behind that. We actually don't see any expansion right now. It looks like DDE just trying to be extra safe. Doesn't want anything fishy going on, but what do we have here? There's the War Prism going down, dropping a lot of zealots there in this expansion for DDE, going right around those bunkers there. Able to get a lot of forces actually in the main, splitting off a few of them to go deal with the forces, while the zealots in the back are left here to clean up the rest of these forces. DDE forced to lift that command center. He is currently stopping all mining. In the meantime, he's going to try to sneak forward with these stalkers. I don't really know that he's going to get too far into this. Looks like he's trying to do as much damage as he can. It looks like he's going to pick up these units on the ground, but looks like these zealots are going to be able to stick back here, and looks like he's going to try to attack that supply depot. I bet he was a little bit more focused on his units, as he is now warping in a ton more units, getting a ton of SCV kills here. WhiteRa actually getting a ridiculous number of SCV kills, currently at 13 workers killed. If we check out the workers count right now, we can see that WhiteRa is way ahead, 50 to 27, and he is still in the base of DDE, dealing a lot of damage now, just trying to target down these SCVs, trying to get as many of them as he can before they go down. And WhiteRa, of course, expanding. Such smart play here from WhiteRa. Always, whenever you're putting on some pressure on your opponent, you always want to be expanding behind it if you can, and that is exactly what we're seeing WhiteRa do here. Because he dealt all that damage, he doesn't have to worry about an immediate counterattack. Sometimes when you go for an attack, an opponent can, if your attack didn't do that much damage, your opponent could say, well, you didn't hurt me that much, so since I managed to defend your attack, you can't really have that much, and push right back at the front of your base and potentially do a lot of damage there if you decide to just sit back and expand. But the War Prism moving back in again, bringing in a few zealots, actually dropping a couple of zealots. Looks like he's not actually going to be going into phasing mode and warping in any units here, but he's going to do some damage here with these two. It looks like he's going to bring these other ones down to the other expansion and drop these other two zealots in the main, but there are some marauders here that he's going to need to be very, very careful of. And yes, he is going into phasing mode, and are we going to see some warp-ins here from WhiteRa? And looks like no. Looks like he's more concerned about this push that is now pushing at his front. This is a good number of units there to push at the front, but WhiteRa is actually deciding to warp in some zealots there in the mineral line of DDE, but WhiteRa now has a Colossus out. He's going to be able to clean this up quite nicely. He's got these zealots sitting right out in front to absorb some of that damage, and he's going to try to take as much damage as he can, but the Colossus falls! Oh no, and DDE actually left with still a good number of units out here at the front. Gonna force the cancel on that Nexus. Don't think WhiteRa's going to be able to defend that right now, but in the meantime, he is continuing that aggression. He's still got a zealot in that natural expansion. 32 workers killed for WhiteRa, and looks like he's starting to get way ahead in the food count. We're starting to see that reflected in that food count, as WhiteRa is now sitting at 80 food to the 60 food of DDE. DDE now doing damage to that expansion. Looks like he's now going to be pulling back, though he is coming across the map with a few forces right now. Factory is in the natural expansion, able to see what's going on in there. Nothing too unexpected, though, to scout, as well. It's pretty much exactly as he thought. We do have a 5-gate robo here from WhiteRa, which is, well, what he probably could have guessed from just seeing WhiteRa's composition there and the units that he's been getting. He's already going to know that the Colossi are out because they did defend against that attack. And it looks like that factory is now going to get picked off. Observer just now scouting these two drops. Little does WhiteRa know that these two medvacs are actually empty, so he doesn't have to worry too much. Sending that observer back down to watch for any additional drops. DDE, meanwhile, controlling the middle of the map, stimming up a little bit, gonna try to catch some of these units off guard, and WhiteRa, though, too closely watching that mini-map, actually manages to see those units coming up and pulls that Colossus back before it goes up on that ramp all alone. DDE deciding to push in a little bit once again, now coming in with a small force of Marine Marauders. Marine Marauders, of course, very, very good in small numbers, but WhiteRa's got a lot of units out here at the front, and I think he is going to be able to clean this up pretty well. One of the Colossi does fall, but there is still one here, and a lot of Zealots and a lot of Stalkers here. So I think he's going to be able to push this attack back quite nicely. In the meantime, no aggression going on. DDE just trying to get his economy back on the line at this point. He's trying to macro back up, get all his SCV count going. If we check out the Harvester tab right now, we can see that WhiteRa is still way ahead, 55 to 32 Harvesters. Just now getting that third base, starting to produce more Harvesters to start mining on that third base. So WhiteRa looking like he is in a fantastic position right now. One more War Prism now on the way, plus one ground armor coming for those Protoss units, and it looks like we are going to be seeing some more of those special tactics from WhiteRa as he is now producing that Warp Prism to start dealing a little bit more damage. WhiteRa continuing to macro up a lot of units. Looks like he's still, for now, he's stopped Colossus production, actually. Right now, he's not producing any more Colossi, just sticking with that one Warp Prism. We don't have any other robotics facilities down yet. And I should actually check out what's going on in the base of DDE, as it has been a little while. We do have a heavy barracks play here from DDE, as there are currently, wow, what is this, six barracks currently up, 3 with Reactor, 2 with Tech Lab, a factory coming up. Actually, looks like DD decided that he might need that factory after all, that he sacrificed a little while earlier, that he used for scouting. Starport's still up with that reactor, gonna be able to get in those medevacs. And what do we have here but another Warp Prism drop there in the natural expansion for DDE. Looks like he was able to clean up that Warp Prism with that one Viking, and now WhiteRa looking confident, starting to push out. Looks like he's going to try to move forward, but there is a drop going down in his own natural expansion, and he's now being forced to pull back, and we now see that all these units here are going to be able to deal a lot of damage. Now focusing that Nexus. Will that Nexus go down? All those probes now being pulled to that third expansion, and it looks like the expansion does finally go down. They're now going to start targeting down those Colossi. Those Colossi, one does actually end up going down, and looks like DD is going to be packing up here and just trying to get away, but that medevac is super low on health right now. It is going to be a little sketchy there for DDE. Looks like WhiteRa is going to come around and try to pick off that medevac if he can. He's going to try to control the center of the map so you can see that medevac coming back. In the meantime, he ran into a big group of Marine Marauder here, as he does manage to pull back that Colossus in time before it takes too much damage. In the meantime, it looks like this drop is going to come back in for DDE to try to deal some damage here. And yes, we do have units being warped in, but WhiteRa is so good about watching that mini-map, instantly reacts and drops down a bunch of Zealots to deal with that push. And now he's got a very, very scary push coming at the front of DDE's base. DDE still unable to get a third. He has the command center up, but just not able to get it up. He's had to produce a lot of army units here to defend with from WhiteRa. And looks like WhiteRa is finally deciding to move in a little bit, but there are a lot of Marauders here from DDE having a little bit of indecision as to what exactly he wants to do. There are 4 Colossi here, but those Vikings are getting a little too far forward. They are managing to get picked off by those Stalkers. Looks like that one Colossi does actually go down, and the Vikings are still up, so this other Colossi is still going to be up. The Sentries used to focus down the rest of those Zealots. Nice little move there. Nice little bit of micro there from WhiteRa. And we do now have the Zealots now coming in. They do not yet have that charge ability, so they can't just be charging up to those Marines, but WhiteRa still in a pretty good place. Still got a lot of Marauders up here to take some damage, and a Colossus here to deal a lot of damage. Continuing to macro in more forces. Surprised that there aren't any actually drops going on in the back right now. I think he does not have a Warp Prism at the moment. The Colossus gets focused down, actually goes down pretty quick, and the rest of the units get picked up by those medevacs and are actually just dropped right back off again. But the, ooh, wow, the charge actually comes in right in the middle of that fight there, and that DDE was definitely not expecting that. He was hoping to kite those Zealots a little bit more, didn't quite manage to do that. Just now taking his third, but WhiteRa's army starting to look very, very scary. DDE doing a surprisingly good job of defending, considering he's actually starting to catch up in food count. 93 food to 86. If we check out the workers count, we can see that WhiteRa is still ahead, 54 to 47. Those mules doing a good job though of keeping DDE in the game here, as this drop is now coming back to continue to be very, very annoying for WhiteRa here. He's now dropping, and he takes out a pylon. No immediate warp-ins here from WhiteRa, and it looks like he's going to start focusing down that robotics bay. This is going to prevent any more Colossi from coming out if he can manage to take this down. He's focusing it. Looks like he's just going to go for it, try to take down that robotics bay, and the robotics bay does fall. The medevac, though, goes down, and these units will get cleaned up by WhiteRa. He's going to be delayed a little bit. In the meantime, we do have an attack coming at the front here, and looks like WhiteRa is going to be able to defend this, but will the Nexus fall? The Nexus falls down, and that means that WhiteRa now only mining on this one small base here. His main is mined out, and he does not have a third now up, so DDE actually doing a very, very good job of getting ahead, but this is a scary force here coming from WhiteRa. WhiteRa deciding that he wants to end this game right now, coming in with a big, big force of Zealots and Stalkers coming in now with 2 Colossi able to deal a lot of damage, and the forces of DDE are just crumbling to all the forces of WhiteRa right now. As WhiteRa moves into third, he says, you know what, you took my third expansion, I'm going to come in and take yours, and now he's moving in with strength, and there is the GG from DDE. WhiteRa takes game 1, and that means, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going into game 2 of this best of 5 right now, so don't go anywhere.